Hi all, this is Aditya and welcome to the Floating School. Today I would be talking about a really important topic, growth and development. I would divide this lesson into two parts. In the first part, I would be discussing two really important questions. What are the major parameters that determine whether a country is developed or not? Suppose if I give you a set of 10 countries and if I ask you to classify them into three groups, developed, developing and underdeveloped. How would you do that classification? Based on what parameters, based on what criteria would you say that this particular country is developed, this particular country is developing and this particular country is underdeveloped? How would you do that? We'll look into the parameters, we'll discuss each one of them in detail. The second question that I would be discussing under part 1 of this lecture would be, does development means economic development only, or is there a social side of development as well? This question is really interesting because usually when we talk about development, we assume that development means economic development. Development equals to economic development. But this question asks us, is there even a social side of development that we should consider? Something which we are missing? When we say that this particular country is developed, this particular country is not developed, it's underdeveloped, on what criteria are we basing our judgment? Are we basing it only on the economic criteria? Are there some social criteria as well that should be looked into? In the second part of this lecture, I would be discussing another two important questions. The first one would be, can there be growth without development and vice versa? Is it possible that a country has been growing but it has not been developing? Is it possible? Or take the opposite case, is it possible that a country has been developing for a period of time but it has not been growing? Is it possible? Finally, we'll come to the most important question of this discussion under the topic growth and development. The most important question, is India focusing on the social side of development? Are we focusing on the social side of development? If yes, then what are the policy initiatives taken by the government of India to look into the social side? So let us start. Let us start with the first question. Read this sentence. It's a very simple sentence. Take 10 seconds and read it. In 2010, the agriculture sector grew at 10%. What is the meaning of this sentence? Could you tell me the meaning of this sentence? If required, pause the video for 10 seconds and come up with an explanation in 30 words. Let me give you the answer. The statement says that in the year 2010, the agriculture sector grew at 10%. This means that if in 2009 the total output of the agriculture sector was 100 units, if the agriculture sector produced 100 units of output in 2009 and in 2010 the total output was 110 units, it means that within 1 year, between 2009 to 2010, the sector produced 10 extra units of output. 10 extra units of output means 10% growth. Hence, this sector grew at 10% during 2009 to 2010. This is the meaning of this sentence. Now, 10% is a really good growth rate because let me tell you, the Indian agriculture sector is growing at just 1%. Just 1%. So 10% for agriculture sector, it's really handsome rate of growth. So if a rational person, a common man, looks into this statement, he would assume that everything is good in agriculture sector, thumbs up, the sector is growing at a robust rate. But there is a catch. This statement tells us nothing about the quality of life of the farmers and the agricultural laborers. The sector may be growing at 10%, but are the farmers really happy? Do they want to cultivate? Are they interested in farming? Are the farmers sending their children to a good school? Are the farmers getting access to safe drinking water? Are they getting access to basic infrastructure like 24/7 electricity and concrete roads? Hence we say that growth is quantitative. Growth has nothing to do with the quality. It talks about the statistics, it talks about the number, it talks about the output. It doesn't tell us anything about the quality of life. Let us understand development. When we talk about development, we take into consideration various other aspects. It's a very holistic, very broad term. When we talk about development, we don't just talk about the production, we talk about proper roads, we talk about safe drinking water, we talk about sanitation facilities, we talk about street lights, we talk about affordable healthcare, we talk about education. Non-existence of the above facilities will render a place backward no matter whatever be the growth rate. Imagine a country which has been growing at 10% every year. The GDP of the country increases at the rate of 10% every year. But the country lacks affordable healthcare. The country lacks good schools. The country lacks good teachers. The country lacks street lights. Can you say that the country is developed? It may be growing, but it's not developing. So we say that growth is quantitative, development is qualitative. It talks about the quality of life. It takes into consideration various other aspects. Hence, growth is quantitative, development is qualitative. Let us understand development in a more wider perspective. Let us look into 360-degree picture of development. I explained what is development. I explained what is growth. I said that when we talk about development, we talk about employment opportunities, we talk about infrastructure, we talk about per capita income, we talk about absence of poverty. When you look into countries such as United States of America, United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, we say that they have really good employment opportunities over there. They have world-class infrastructure, bullet trains. They have really high per capita income. There is absence of poverty, hence they are developed. But this is actually just one side of development. This is called the economic side of development. Development also has a social side. Development also takes into consideration the level of education, the level of health, sanitation facilities, safe drinking water. So when you are saying that this particular country is developed, you should not base your judgment only on the basis of economic parameters. You should also look into the social parameters like education, health, sanitation facilities, safe drinking water, basic infrastructure. Now, let us understand both sides of development one by one. I said that development has a social side, economic side, and social side as well. Let us delve deeper. Let us understand both the economic and social side one by one. Understanding the economic side of development. I said that when we talk about economic side of development, we usually talk about these parameters: employment, infrastructure, per capita income, and absence of poverty. Suppose you are the prime minister or the finance minister of your country, and you have to take your country to a different level. You have to grow your country, develop your country at a rapid rate, but you don't have much time. You cannot focus on all these 4 parameters. You have to just select one parameter which could take your country to the next level, which could propel your country to the next level. What would be that parameter? Take it as an MCQ, pause the video, just select one option. If you are the prime minister of your country, you have to select just one aspect of economic side of development which could propel your country to the next level. What would be that parameter? What would be your focus? Will you focus on generating more and more employment opportunities for the citizens of the country? Will you focus on creating world-class infrastructure? Will you focus on raising the per capita income of the country, of the citizens of the country? Or will you attack poverty by coming up with poverty alleviation programs? What would be your option? Let me give you my answer. infrastructure is the single most important criteria, parameter, which could propel your country to the next level. Now, the obvious question would be, how can I say that? So let me justify my answer. Let me give you the answer. Why do we say that? Why do we often say that infrastructure is really important? Because infrastructure leads to wealth creation. Let me show you how. Suppose the year is 1990. This is a city, and these four villages are remote villages. They haven't been connected to the main city. Now the government does something. The government creates basic infrastructure. The government comes up with road connectivity. It just connects these four outskirt villages to the main city. That's it. This is the contribution by the government. No other help from the government. The government just creates roads and just walks out. What will happen? Within 6 months, the villagers will start transport services to capitalize on this opportunity. Government connected the city with the villages. Now people would be traveling from city to village and village to city. There is huge untapped opportunity lying there. So the villagers or people from the city would start transport services. Then what will happen? Within 1 or 2 years, entrepreneurs will set up petrol bunks again to capitalize on this opportunity, because people need to refuel their tanks while they are traveling from city to village. Then what will happen? Again, within 1 or 2 years, cycle repair shops, vehicle repair shops would pop up here and there near the village, near the roads, just to capitalize on this opportunity. And again, within 1 or 2 years, you'll find a number of eateries, restaurants, motels, hotels popping up near the village, near the city. So what happened? The government just created basic infrastructure in the form of road, but it led to a chain reaction, and it created a whole range of economic activities. People started getting jobs. People would be getting jobs in these mechanic shops, petrol bunks, eateries, and finally, within a decade, the value of the land will go up. These villages will become suburbs. The value of assets of the people, the villages, will go up within a decade. So this is how infrastructure leads to wealth creation. Let me go back to the slide. My question was very simple. Which is the single most important parameter that can propel a country to develop rapidly? If you focus on infrastructure, infrastructure itself will take care of all the other three parameters. Let me show you how. Infrastructure will obviously lead to employment opportunities. Just now I showed it to you. The price of the value of assets of the people will go up, hence the per capita income itself will go up. If people are getting more and more jobs, if the value of the assets is going up, the per capita income will automatically go up. The level of poverty will go down because people have money in their hands now. So this single criteria, this single parameter can actually take your country to the next level. This is the reason why experts often say that government should not provide employment directly to the citizens of the country. It is not the responsibility or duty of the government to provide employment opportunities to each and every person, each and every citizens of the country. Why? Because first of all, it's not possible. Take the case of India. The population of India is more than 120 crore. Even if I take the workforce of the country as 30 crores, suppose only 30 crore people are seeking jobs in the country right now. Even then, it is impossible for the government to provide employment to 30 crore people. It's almost impossible. This is the reason why experts often say that government should just create the basic infrastructure, which automatically generates a range of employment opportunities and takes care of the problem of poverty and unemployment. It is often seen that infrastructure is the key to development in almost all the developed countries. You take any developed country, you will find that the infrastructure in that country is world class, really good. Because of that, employment opportunities are high. and poverty is low. It is also seen that in almost all the underdeveloped countries and all the developing countries, the infrastructure is not up to the mark, poor. Because of that, employment opportunities are low, and because of that, poverty is high. Now, we looked into the economic side of development. Now, let us come to the social side. Till the early 20th century, people did not have the awareness that there is even a social side of development. People assumed that development means economic development. People didn't have the awareness that there is a social side of development as well. Whenever we had to measure a country's level of development, we used to just look into the economic parameters and we used to conclude that okay, this country is either developed or not developed. So till early 20th century, development meant economic development. And what was the best measure? Per capita income. So suppose if I ask you, if this is early 20th century and the question is this particular country developed or not, I will just look into the per capita income and a couple of other economic parameters and I will say that okay, this country is developed or underdeveloped. But then something happened. In some Middle Eastern countries, we noticed that the per capita income was high, the country's GDP was increasing, but women literacy was low, life expectancy was low, infant mortality rate was high. What is infant mortality rate? Infant mortality rate tells us that how many children in a country are dying before celebrating their first birthday. How many children are dying before completing 365 days from their birth. This tells us something about the country. This tells us that the country has failed to protect its children. The country has failed to set up affordable healthcare institution. The country lacks affordable healthcare. And this is not a good thing. If the IMR of a country is high, it's not a good thing. It shows that the country is backward. The country has failed to protect its children, and most of the children in that country are born malnourished. Hence, they are dying within 365 days of birth. So we noticed in these things in some Middle Eastern countries that although the country was growing, per capita income was rising, but these other factors were not up to the mark. They were not favorable. So Maurice de Morris developed PQLI, Physical Quality of Life Index. Morris said that in some countries, although the economic parameters are good, but the quality of life is not up to the mark. Please note, he never used the word social side of development. He used the word quality of life. But in a way, he sowed the seeds to measure the social side of development. So he came up with an index, PQLI index, Physical Quality of Life Index. What were the parameters? The parameters were literacy rate, life expectancy, and IMR. He said that I have no problem with per capita income. You keep on measuring a country's level of economic development through per capita income, no problem, but you also measure the quality of life by using these criteria. So what happened from 1970s to 1990s? We used to measure the economic side of development through per capita income, and we used to measure the social side of development through PQLI index. Prior to 1970s, there was no social side. Economic development was itself development. Development meant economic development. From 1970s to 1990s, economic side was measured by per capita income. Social side was measured by PQLI index. Then again something happened in 1990s. In 1990, UNDP, United Nations Development Program, merged the two sides of development, economic and social side, and gave us a broader holistic index in the form of Human Development Index, HDI. UNDP said that why are we taking into consideration so many parameters, women literacy, IMR, per capita income? I am giving you just one index. I have incorporated all the necessary parameters, and this is a more broader and holistic index. If you can just get the HDI score of all the countries in the world, you can compare them and you can say which one is more developed and which one is less developed. What were the parameters of HDI? Life expectancy at birth, education, per capita income. Now, if you look closely, the first two parameters are actually social parameters, life expectancy at birth and education. The third parameter is economic parameter. So in a way, HDI really combined the two sides of development and ushered a new era where we started giving equal importance to the social side of development as well. So the social side of development emerged along with the economic side of development. I haven't even defined development so far because I wanted to tell you that development also has a social side. If I had defined development in the previous slides, I could not have incorporated the social side. First, I wanted to tell you that development is very broad. It has social side as well. Hence, I didn't define development, but I'm going to define it right now. In simple words, one may say that the growth which brings positive change in both economic and social parameters is development. The growth which does not only increases the per capita income of a country, but it also increases the quality of life of the citizens of the country is development. If you want a really compact definition, you could say that development is qualitative growth. Growth by nature is quantitative, but if you could somehow measure the quality of the growth, and if it is good, it is development. So development is qualitative growth. Now, this was the very first question that I asked in the beginning of the slide, that what are the major parameters that determine whether a country is developed or not. I'm pretty sure now this would be very clear. You would be knowing these parameters. It should be in your fingertips by now. But I want to delve a little bit deeper. These are the parameters. Suppose if I ask you this question, that what are the major parameters that determine whether the country is developed or not, you will tell me per capita income. Okay, you'll measure the per capita income. You will look into the life expectancy of the citizens of the country. You will look into the standard of education, or you could just tell me the HDI score. That's it. You don't have to get into the details. You can just look into the HDI score. It already includes all these things. But now my question to you, do you think HDI is really, really broad, or is there nothing which we could add to HDI? Is it like complete, finished, no need? Is there any scope of improvement, or is there no scope of improvement? It's perfectly fine. Now, I don't think it's perfectly fine, because HDI combined the social and economic parameters. But my question is, what about the political parameters? Don't just restrict yourself to social and economic parameters. When I ask you, or someone asks you, is China, Saudi Arabia, UK, US, are these countries developed countries? Don't just restrict your answer to social and economic parameters. Bring into consideration even the political parameters. What about the democratic participation in decision making? What about the level of democratic participation in decision making? If you compare India and China, and if you compare them on the basis of HDI score, if you compare them on the basis of per capita income, life expectancy, and standard of education, I'm pretty sure that China would be well ahead of India. But what about the political freedom enjoyed by the citizens of the country? I'm pretty sure India would be far, far, far ahead of China. Let me give you one more measure. Citizens' right. Take the case of Saudi Arabia. Per capita income is so high, world-class infrastructure. Women don't have equal rights. They can't drive. Whenever they have to go to a doctor, they need to be accompanied by either their husband or brother or father. So if you just compare countries like India with China and Saudi Arabia based on HDI, it won't give you a holistic picture. Bring into consideration political parameters as well. So now you can answer this question. Now I think this is more or less a very broad, very comprehensive answer. You are looking into all the three major parameters: economic, social and political. If you can measure a country's level of development based on these five parameters, more or less you'll get a perfect answer. This was the second question that I asked in the beginning of this session. Does development means economic development, or is there a social side as well? I'm pretty sure you know the answer. I don't have to discuss any further. Now let us come to the third question. Can there be growth without development? Is it possible that a country has been growing but it has not been developing? Or a country has been developing but it has not been growing? But for now, let us stick to this particular question. I am asking you, can you give me an example, or do you think this could be a possibility that a country is growing, GDP is rising year after year, but the country has not been developing? Give me an answer. Pause the video, think about it, maybe 10-15 seconds. Give me a yes or no. Do you think it's possible? Can there be growth without development? Let me give you the answer. Yes, it is possible. Now obviously the question would be, how can I say that? If you want to know the details, if you want to know how is it possible, you'll have to watch the second part of my session. I don't want to discuss it right now. I don't want to make it really lengthy. Please watch the second part. If you are watching it on YouTube, it will be somewhere here. If you are watching it on my website, it will be under the economics tab. Please visit my website www.thefloatingschool.com.